that basically ignited a mental bleep storm or firestorm in Brody's head. He comes up into the office, into the staff hallway, and he is extremely agitated. He's got a little bit of a wild look in his eye. And he just starts to say, he's holding up his phone. I don't know what's happened on his phone. I don't know the kid did this. So he's holding up his phone, and we'll just pretend like this. And say, hey, listen, I don't know where you're, no, like, I've never said that I have feelings for you. This is ridiculous. Why did you put to this? Like, will you tell everybody this? So he's just kind of escalating. And it's like stream of consciousness. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what the heck has gone on. And he's getting louder and louder and louder. So much so, 2 people with offices near me closed their doors because he's getting louder, like, you've got to be kidding. I don't have any feelings for you. Who said I had feelings for you? That's ridiculous. Why would I have feelings for you? We're just friends, Kelly. Why would you make this up? And I'm like, and I'm kind of stunned that he's getting so agitated, he's getting louder, etc. And I'm like, okay. Well, at this point, everybody has to start leaving their offices to go to the all staff. Define all staff. A company-wide meeting where all of the employees are asked to attend. That's in the other part of the building, so they have to go by this. So he's realized that he has made himself late at this point. So he stops talking to me, he runs out the door and runs to the other side. And in the auditorium, there's this really, it's not the biggest sound booth that we have, but we have a lighting and sound booth on the main level. We also have one, that's what we call the bird's nest, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a little bit because that is important. So he is in the lighting booth and the sound booth. So when I go in, because we only have, like, all the other doors to the auditorium are locked. We have one set of doors we can go in, and I have to go by the lighting design area. So I go through it, and I see as I go through, because there's like 40 of us starting to, we're kind of filing in. And I see there's like one little thing on stage that he hasn't preset that I know exactly where it is. And instead of saying, hey, Brody, you need to go ahead and like tap on GH, I'm like, I'll just go up into the sound booth, click the button and get out. When I did that, I'm not even that close to him. I'm like 2 feet away from him, but Jack is there, Bill is there, and like 2 other friends are there that are on staff that are kind of our mutual friends. So I just click the button, and then Brody says to them, oh, careful guys, give her plenty of space. If you get too close to her, she's gonna tell everybody that you're in love with her. Now that's not what Kayla said at all, but that's how he's freaking out. So now he's trying to embarrass me in front of our mutual friends at work. Yes, and by the way, I know some of you are like, Callie, that's what you get for getting involved with somebody at work. Listen, I'm not talking, well, okay, I'm not even gonna get into that to another day, but so he started to say not good things about me in front of his friends. And so now I just have to go sit in all staff and figure out, like, what the heck is on your mind? Why would you do this? So that day passes. I don't talk to him for the rest of the day. And 2 or 3 days later, we end up, just by chance, like in a movie, we end up having to go through at the end of the day to the staff hallway to our cars at the same time. Like, it just happens. It would be awkward if one of us stopped. So we're walking side by side. And as we're walking, I just said, we could have just a conversation about this to clear everything up. And he's like, maybe. So then he texts me later and says, yeah, we could have a conversation, when and where. So I wanted it to be in a private area where no one's gonna overhear it, whatever. So I'm like, let's go to the bird's nest, lighting and sound booth that is over in the East Auditorium. You open up the door on the ground floor, you go up a flight of stairs, and that's a private area, and sometimes we would record up there, record music. It's very private, secluded. Nobody really knows you're up there if if they don't know. So we're up there, and we're gonna have a conversation. And I was like, listen, just so you'll know, I had no idea that Kelly was gonna do that. So in the conversation that Brody and I are in, up in the bird's nest, I was like, hey, I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was like, but there's no reason why we can't just have a conversation about this. And so I tell him, I was like, listen, the staff makes comments. They're not being rude or belittling. And a few of them have even asked me, like, hey, what is going on with you two? So when I say that, his eyes get huge, and he says, well, what do you tell them when they ask that? And so I realize, Petty Kelly comes out in this moment. I realize that he's basically trying to get me to say first that I have feelings for him. And I'm so mad because of how he did this. Like, in this situation, in my mind, neither of us had to be embarrassed or humiliated. Why would you do this? And you made a decision to try and discredit and humiliate me. And I was your only friend for a while, for 2 years on staff, when you couldn't even make friends. Why would you do this? I was so horribly hurtful that in that moment in the bird's nest, my mind was like, oh, no. I'm not going to say anything, because I really didn't have romantic feelings fully yet for him. And I knew he did for me, that I was just like, well, this is what I tell them. I tell them that it would be crazy because he obviously likes, I don't remember the name of the person I made up, but the other girl that's on staff, he obviously just likes her. So that's what I tell them. And so then Brody goes, oh, well, that's ridiculous. You mean, so I'm in love with both of you? I have nothing to say, because maybe you are. I don't know. So I say nothing. I said, yeah, pretty ridiculous, isn't it? I said, so that's where we're at. And so he's like, well, then that's just people and their imaginations. And I was like, well, I guess so. So no harm, no foul, it's fine. And so we wrap up the conversation pretty quick, and he goes down the stairs in front of me. And when he opens the door, he's like 10 feet in front of me at this point, and his back is to me, he doesn't turn around. And he says, you know what? It's not like it would have worked out anyway. We have a vast age difference, which we did not talk about upstairs, or we never talked about. And so he just walked off to his car. I walked off to my car, and we went home. And after that moment, I realized, okay, we didn't really have a conversation. Not really. I felt like we couldn't really have a conversation, because what am I going to do? Say, hey, I have feelings for you, and he's going to freak out again like he did the day before? I was so hurt that he was willing to throw me into the bus. Like, he didn't just throw me into the bus. Like, he dragged my lifeless body multiple times, ran over it, backed it up, dragged it back, ran over it, and back and forth. And it was just embarrassing. Now, the staff knows him and they know me. So they kind of just figured, I think, that it was a lover's quarrel. I don't think they thought anything of it. But for me, I felt like, you know what? I don't trust you as a friend anymore. And I didn't ever say this to him, but talk about cold shoulder at this point. I hardcore cold shouldered him at this point. Because I'd already been through a bad marriage with someone who was really bad with their emotions and bad with mine and careless. And I didn't care to go through this. And I didn't, a couple of real quick thing. I don't care about an age difference. And I know some, like in the past, I've mentioned a little bit of the story to someone else, and they're like, oh my gosh, Kelly, you get that younger guy. That's not what it's about. It's not about getting a younger guy or an older guy or a richer or taller or whatever. It's about finding the right partner who's going to be kind and loving to you with the needs that you have, and you're going to help them and be kind and loving and supportive to them and challenge each other where you need to be challenged, etc. It just so happened in this case, this option was years younger, and I didn't have a problem with that. And even when I mentioned to Janice that something might be happening, like weeks before this, she was like, okay, well, I was like, I thought I would just spring it on her. I was like, it's Brody. And it's him. And by the way, he's about 50 years younger than me. And she was like, okay. No reaction. I was like, you're okay with that? She said, Kelly, I can speak for everybody. We just want you to be happy, and we want you to be loved and cared for, which was really sweet. So I was like, okay, well, and at that point is when I had decided, let's have a conversation. So the conversation's over with. It's been bad. It did not go well. And I am done. Also at this point, more importantly, I've definitely started to have feelings for Jack, his roommate. Jack has made comments towards me as well. And it's like this thing is starting to bubble over here on the side. So like, hey, Brody, it's probably not going to work out however you slice it. But that's a whole other really drama-filled story that is still really interesting. So here we are. Brody and I really don't talk anymore. Because I'm just like, what the heck do we have to talk about at this point because of how he was. And I could have been more calm in the moment, etc. Once again, in this story, not the best version of Kelly that I've ever been. Not the worst though either. It was just a lot of emotion. So here's what happens. For the next 2 years, we still have to interact because I end up becoming no longer the receptionist, and I end up becoming the full-time art director for the media group. So, I loved it. He and I still have to interact because I'm also now one of the set designers and production designers. So the things I design, he has to help create and implement. Same thing with lighting. So we still kind of have interaction, but it's just professional. Now, if you're like, Callie, wasn't that awkward? Listen, I just got out of a 13-year verbally abusive marriage. I have a high threshold for what I consider awkward compared to what everybody else considers awkward. So we still work together, etc. And within, this is the beginning of this 2 years, about 3.5 months in, I get a volunteer, and she's gonna help with lighting design, set design, etc., because she wants to learn a little bit more about it, which is great. She's intelligent, she's fun, she's insightful. We do stuff, we're part of a book club, we get each other. And so in all of that time, there's a couple times like where I house sit. I would on occasion have like 1 or 2 friends a couple of times come over, and we'd swim and use the hot tub, etc., and it'd just be girl time. So one time I had Sue over, and we were just talking. She'd been dating Brody for about a year, maybe like a year and 3 months. So we're talking, and she's like, yeah, he said something the other day that really didn't sit well with me. Now, at this point, I still don't know, like, okay, so has he said anything about me? Like, that's never come up in conversation with her and I. He and I have never talked about it. So I'm like, what's she gonna say? So Sue just says, yeah, we were invited to a wedding that we attended, last week. And I asked him at the wedding, like, hey, what did you think when we first met? Like, what were your first impressions of me? Here were my first impressions of you, which she told him something very sweet. And then he said to her, like, keep in mind, what were your first impressions of me? And they're at a friend's wedding. And he said to her, well, I just thought there's got to be somebody pretty underneath all that acne. So when she told me that, I could not help it. I said, listen, Sue, I did not have the same red flags with my ex-husband as you do with Brody. That is not okay. Number one, for everybody, if somebody makes a comment like that, they probably do not love you, or they don't know what love is. When people say love is blind, that is pretty much not a joke. Whatever flaws the person has that you love, you just typically don't see it. That's not a thing. So the fact that, number one, he saw something that he perceived as a flaw was not good. But number two, the fact that he was willing to brutally say something about it, especially in a moment where she's being really sweet and kind and loving to him, was a horrible red flag. And I made it very clear to her in that moment. Like, I calmed everything down and I sat her down face to face and was like, I need to be clear with you. So I told her in that moment, like, hey, this is not okay that he said this or that he did this or that he felt this. So she took it for what it's worth, still dated. A few months pass and things are getting escalated for them. They're still together. Looks like they're going to get married. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're this far in. Still, no words have come to tell me if he's ever said anything to her. We got to dinner one night, just her and I, and we're talking, and she's like, hey, listen, I was just curious, like, I know that he liked someone on staff, but I don't know who it was. Have you ever heard anything? Well, what am I going to say? It could be me. Like, I don't know. It could be one or both of us. And so I just said, hey, listen, I think that's really a question for Brody. I could give you, I'm sure I have ideas, but you need to talk to Brody about this. Because I'm like, if this is something that they haven't talked about at this point, they probably need to talk about it. I still don't want them to get married. So a few more months pass, and she ends up saying that she invites me out to dinner. She brings her iPad with her, and she's like, listen, I'm pretty sure that Brody's going to propose to me soon. And I know he set several $1,000s aside, and also because his family has money, they're going to give him several thousand. I am afraid he's going to buy me this really ugly, gaudy ring that I don't want. Will you do me the favor and honor of going with him to pick out my wedding ring? I trust your style. I've seen how you design things and how you like things, and we like a lot of the similar things, and I know exactly what you like, that you would make a good decision. And she showed me like 3 or 4 different rings, and I'm thinking, holy crap, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. But I had been very clear on the main reason you should not be with this guy or marry him. I've already been clear on that. Never told her about he and I. That was an extra. So I'm like, okay, yes, I will go help him pick out the wedding ring. So I want to say like a few days or a week pass, and so he comes up to me and says, hey, so Sue mentioned that if and when it's time to get the ring, that, she wants me to take you with me. And so I was like, yeah. He said, well, I'm actually going to propose to her this coming Thursday night, which I was like, okay. I said, so like, when do you want to get the ring? Like today? He said, no, we'll just get it Thursday. So I'm like, okay. So we agreed that we're gonna drive to Samuel Goldwyn. I think they're a jeweler that's not even in business anymore. So we're going to drive to Samuel Goldwyn, whatever it's called, after work, and then I'll help him pick out the ring. So on Thursday, the night he's gonna propose, which he tells, anyway. So the night he's gonna propose, we go and get the ring like at, I want to say like, we get there at like 5-ish. And we actually know pretty quickly. Like I know, because I paid attention to her, I've talked to her, I have an idea of the kind of ring that she wants. He has literally the cash with him. Now, the funny part about this part of the story, as we go in there, because we look like a couple, because I do look like almost his age, people think because we're in there to get a wedding ring, that I'm the happy bride. So just like a bad movie, they keep coming up to us and giving us like champagne and chocolates and whatever. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting for you. Like everybody and every salesperson in the dang store, because they're not that busy, keeps congratulating us. And every single time I'm like, we're not together. I am not the fiance. I'm helping the fiance. I will take that champagne, thank you, and that chocolate, but I'm not her. And he's actually been kind of relaxed, and he's like, Kelly, you don't have to be that forceful about it. So it's actually been kind of funny because everybody thinks we're together, which given the past is kind of a, funny, hard, but funny thing. So after about an hour and 15 minutes, not even an hour and a half, we have the ring. It is beautiful. It's like a princess cut, almost perfect diamond set in like white platinum. I know she's going to love it. It's going to be great. So we go out to our cars, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most time we spent together in 2 years. And it wasn't painful, and it was actually not horrible. I still don't think they should get married, but I've told her everything she needs to know as far as I'm concerned in the moment. So, okay. So then Brody says, he's like, hey, you're so creative. How about like you just come back to the house and you can maybe give me some direction on how tonight should go. Like you could help me just iron out a few details. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that hour and 15-ish minutes wasn't bad. So yes, sure. What could go wrong? What could happen? So we get to his house, and because we drove, thank God we drove separately. We get to his house, and he goes in the door, like he unlocks the door, and I'm behind him, and he has the ring inside of the little velvet bag that's inside of, the box. So it's the ring, the box, and the bag. And he goes about 10 feet forward. Now Jack is gone. Jack is on a vacation with his family. Bill is out with his girlfriend for the whole evening, so nobody's coming anytime soon. And Brody, as he's putting the ring on the table, he starts to turn around and he says, so I guess you thought it would never work out between us because of our age difference? And as he's turning around, I can tell by the look on his face, he's not kidding. This isn't something funny he's doing. He's not trying to give me a hard time. He's asking a dead serious question. And in that moment, I would love to tell you that I handled it how differently than I handled it. I think almost anything would have been better than maybe how I handled it. I like to call this scorched earth. Define scorched earth. Deliberate and widespread destruction of love, emotions, and goodwill, mainly just to be vindictive and get the last word in. In general, don't do scorched earth. It's not a way to go. But anyway, he says, so I guess you thought it could never work out between us because of our age difference. And by the time he's facing me, I can tell he's 100% dead serious. There's no joke on his face, and he's like trying to read my soul for an answer. And in that moment, I had so many thoughts and feelings come crashing in, because the first of which is like, holy bleep, you're about to ask Sue to marry you in 3 hours, and you're asking another human being this. Oh my God, you've had this on your mind for 2 years. 2 years you've dated another human for 2 years, and just now you're bringing this up? Oh my gosh. like, what do I do? I can't tell her because he'll just lie about it. He's never told her about us before. So if I tell her about it now, oh my gosh. So all of these thoughts coming in, and very quickly, all of these thoughts just start coming out. Like, holy crap, I can't believe it. And I can't believe you tried to humiliate me. You know how heartbroken I was? Like, you cost us our friendship because of how you dealt with it. You wanted to humiliate me in front of all of our friends. And how dare you? And I just keep going on and on. And he is not getting angry. I think he's getting hurt. Because he's also processing a lot of information. I don't know if in that moment, if he just wanted closure, which I don't think based on the look on his face. I think there's a little part of him that hoped that I would have said, Brody, I'm crazy about you. Forget Sue, let's be together, which did not happen. So I think he really thought it was going to go different than it did. I don't know if he pre-planned that. I don't know if it was just us getting the rings in the moment was something that made him realize, like, oh crap, I thought I was going to do this with you someday. I don't know what was on his mind. So in that moment at his house, I just start to let it all out. And I realized at some point, like, inner Kelly is like, Kelly, you got to calm down. You need to close that gate on your mouth because this is not okay. And you're taking it too far. And yes, this is a lot to have to deal with, but you need to be quiet because you're going to destroy this person that you did care about. And I can't stop myself from talking. So literally I just start backing up because I'm like, you got to get out of here. You can't shut up. You need to get out of here. So he's trying to talk to me at this point, and his face is like dark and also red, and I don't have anything mentally to deal with this. Like, you're gonna propose to somebody in a few hours, and I don't know what to do with all of this. So I just leave, and I'm in my car, and I'm angry, etc. And in the moment, I was like, what do I do? Do I tell Sue? What do I tell her? No one's gonna believe me. No one's gonna believe me. No one's gonna believe me. Like, he'll just lie about it again. And if he hasn't told her, I don't want to tell her tonight. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. I can't believe this. What am I gonna do? So I don't say anything. To this day, I regret the fact that I should have said something, because if I would have told Sue, hey, listen, this just happened the night he proposed to you, even if he lied about it, she would have had to have hopefully have a conversation with him, and then she would have judged on his reaction like, hey, this isn't okay. But I didn't, and I should have. So I hope sincerely, if you ever deal in the same situation, you will have it be better, because it's one of the biggest regrets of my life for both of them. So in the moment, in the beginning, when he first said what he said, when I was still married, I should have handled that differently. And then the day where he's throwing me under the bus, I wish I could have said, you need to calm down. It's going to be okay. And I kind of did actually say that in the staff office. He could not be talked off of that ledge. And then the afternoon, evening, when we were in the bird's nest, I wish I wouldn't have let my pettiness get a hold of me. Granted, I don't know what he would have done. It's obvious after 2 years, man, he was dating someone for 2 years, proposed to them, but that whole time he still thought about me, and that deserved to have a conversation. So men and women, but mainly men, man, it's worth your time to have the conversation, because it could save years of your life, years and years of your life. So be better than me on that. So this is yet again one of the stories I've lived through. This is just a randomly interesting story because it's got so much drama and heart in it. And hopefully it'll tell you this. If you have feelings for someone, it's not wrong to have a conversation. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. A conversation is just a conversation. It's not a proposal. It's not a declaration of love. It's not an invitation to hook up, usually. It's just a conversation between two human beings who are gonna live a lifetime and might, during that lifetime, wanna know how the other person feels. So that's kind of the biggest moral of the story. And I will say this for women in general, I guess for both of you, hold on, I'm gonna cough. The other thing, which seems random but is important, men often overestimate, as we know, women's attraction in them. Women often underestimate a man's attraction. So it's important that women are aware of this. Because for some reason in our culture and our society, it's not always easy for men to be clear about their thoughts when it comes to love and romance. So you'll see that in the following story at some other point. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you learned to be better than me in many aspects of this story. It's an interesting story. It taught me a lot. It also taught me moving forward. It began to teach me, don't do what I call scorched earth. When you're having a heated debate with someone you care about and it's not going how you would like it to, don't just light the whole relationship on fire, because that's going to be damaging to both of you at some point, and other people might be involved in that fire eventually. So there's that. And then also, I wish in hindsight that I would have talked to Sue and told her about the day of the proposal. I didn't feel like he was going to be honest, except there's 1,000 different things that went on in my mind. But be better than me. On that note, man, I hope this has been insightful. I hope it's been at least interesting and fun. Join me for some lighter, happier stories over this next couple of weeks. You're going to hear, like I said, you're going to hear dramatic, happy, crazy, wonderful. It's all in the mix of all the stuff that I've lived through. And you're welcome to join me anytime. So have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you.